It was past midnight when Noah first heard the voice. He'd been lying in bed, the flickering light of his old television painting faint shadows across the walls. The house was silent, except for the faint, monotonous hum of static coming from the TV. He must have fallen asleep watching some old movie and the cable had cut out hours ago. He was just reaching for the remote, ready to plunge the room into darkness, when he froze. A faint sound was coming from the static. It was almost words. He turned up the volume just a little, leaning closer, his curiosity overriding his sleepiness. The static hissed and crackled, a sea of white noise. Then, a whisper slipped through, so quiet it almost blended into the background hiss. "Noah!" His heart skipped a beat. He slammed the mute button and sat there, bolt upright, staring at the swirling gray and black dots on the screen. The whisper had been crystal clear. It had said his name. He tried to rationalize it, to convince himself it was just a trick of his overtired mind. Maybe he was dreaming. Maybe the sound had come from outside, a neighbor or a car passing by. But when he unmuted the TV, the voice came again, clearer this time. "Noah, help me." The sound was broken, distorted by the static, like someone trying to speak through an old faulty radio transmission. Goosebumps prickled on his arms. The air in the room suddenly felt heavy, charged, as if the sound itself had a physical presence. "Who are you?" he asked softly, feeling utterly foolish for talking to his television. For a few long seconds, nothing but the endless sea of white noise filled the air. Then the voice returned. "I'm cold. Please don't turn it off." Noah's stomach dropped. It was a woman's voice, trembling and desperate. He could barely breathe as he stared at the swirling snow on the static screen, his mind racing. Who was this? What was happening? "Where are you?" he asked, his own voice now shaking. The reply was a single, terrifying word. "Trapped," she whispered. "In the signal. He won't let me go." Just then the lights in his room flickered violently and a sharp popping noise erupted from the television. Noah jumped back, his heart hammering against his ribs. A faint shadow rippled across the static, something that almost looked like a silhouette moving behind a sheet of frosted glass. "Who won't let you go?" Noah demanded, inching closer again, his fear now mixed with a strange, protective anger. The woman's voice didn't answer. Instead, another one joined in. A low, guttural sound that made his stomach twist into a knot. It wasn't words, just deep, rumbling tones, like a growl hidden just beneath the hiss of the static. "Noah!" The woman's voice cried out again, her tone now filled with sheer terror. "He found me!" The TV went completely black. For several agonizing seconds, Noah just sat in the profound silence, staring at the blank screen. The only sound was the frantic pounding of his own heartbeat in his ears. Then slowly, the screen flickered back to life. Not to static this time, but to an image. It was a room. His room. He could see himself sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at the screen. But the figure on the TV wasn't a perfect reflection. It lagged just slightly, its head turning a fraction of a second after his, and its eyes looked darker, like empty pits. He stumbled backward, tripping over his own feet and knocking over a lamp with a crash. The image on the screen mirrored the action, but with a horrifying addition. It smiled faintly, a cold, predatory grin. "Noah," the distorted version of him said through the speakers, the voice a chilling mimicry of his own. "Don't be afraid." He bolted for the power cord, his hands fumbling as he yanked it from the wall socket. The screen went black, but the relief was short-lived. Even with the TV unplugged, the faint sound of static still filled the air. That's when he realized it wasn't just coming from the television anymore. The old, dusty radio on his desk, a relic he hadn't touched in years, crackled to life. The same woman's voice whispered through its speaker, weaker now, laced with panic. "He's coming through. Run!" Noah froze, his blood turning to ice. From behind him, from the hallway just outside his bedroom door, came a soft thud. It sounded like a footstep. He turned slowly, his eyes scanning the dark corridor, but it was empty. The sound came again, closer this time. Pure, unadulterated panic took over. He grabbed his phone, his thumb swiping frantically at the screen, but it was useless. No signal. Just a dead black screen with faint static lines running across it. The lights in the house began to flicker faster and faster, syncing up with the rhythmic pulse of the static that now seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Then, the impossible happened. The TV turned on again, by itself. On the screen, Noah saw something that made his blood run cold. The camera angle had changed. It was now showing the hallway right behind him, and in the oppressive darkness something moved. A tall shadow stretched from the corner, twisting and bending in ways that defied physics as it crept silently, menacingly, closer to where he stood. Noah's breath caught in his throat. He didn't dare turn around. He could see it so clearly on the screen, the shadow's impossibly long fingers reaching out, extending, almost touching his shoulder. He spun around, swinging his arm wildly through the empty air. There was nothing there. But when his terrified gaze snapped back to the screen, the shadow was gone. Only the reflection of his own horrified face remained, staring back at him from the dark glass. He had to get out. He stumbled toward the front door, his hands shaking so badly he could barely grip the lock. But as soon as his fingers touched the cold metal of the handle, a deafening blast of static filled the room, so loud it felt like a physical blow. He dropped to his knees, his hands clamped over his ears. The radio and the TV screamed in unison, a chaotic symphony of white noise and overlapping, disembodied voices whispering his name. Noah. The woman's voice pleaded one last time, cutting through the chaos. Don't let him in. Then, absolute silence. The power went out completely, plunging the entire house into suffocating darkness. The only sound left was Noah's own ragged, desperate breathing. He stayed there on the floor for what felt like hours, paralyzed, waiting for something, anything to happen. When the lights finally flickered back on, everything seemed normal. The TV was off. The radio was silent. He let out a shaky, disbelieving breath that turned into a nervous laugh. It had all been some vivid, stress-induced nightmare. That had to be it. He pushed himself to his feet, his body trembling with exhaustion and residual fear. He needed a drink of water. He walked toward the kitchen, his steps unsteady. But as he passed the dark, silent TV screen in the living room, he caught a glimpse of something that made his blood freeze solid in his veins. His reflection. It wasn't moving. It stood perfectly still, staring at him through the black glass. Then slowly it smiled, the same twisted, malevolent grin he'd seen earlier. The screen flickered once, a single flash of light. Before he could even scream, the static returned, louder and more aggressive than ever. This time, the voice that spoke was not the woman's. It was his own voice, clear as day, coming from the television. "Hello, Noah," it said. "Thanks for letting me in."